What's going on, everyone? Nick Filato with Big Blue View here to kind of review what's going on in free agency and how it sets up the New York Giants for the 2023 NFL Draft, a pivotal draft. Joe Schoen needs to nail these draft picks, and we know the 2022 New York Giants exceeded all the expectations they needed to. CBS had them at 5-12. Yahoo had them at 6-11. ESPN had them as their 28th ranked team heading into the season. And I don't bring these organizations up to cast aspersions on them. I just think it's important to remember the context of this football team heading into last season and how Dable and Schoen were able to defeat those projections through good coaching and maximizing the talent. But with a quarterback making $40 million a year now, and with Dexter Lawrence and Andrew Thomas, those possible market-setting type of deals on the horizon, the Giants need to nail this draft. The Giants need to get the most out of every single one of these draft picks on those rookie deals while their stars are making big money. And that's the way that Joe Schoen and Brian Dable can turn this franchise around and have them competing for Super Bowls consistently. And Joe Schoen has already improved this roster, adding key, cheap veteran talent for depth and also finding an explosive playmaker in Darren Waller, only giving up that third-round pick that was acquired via the Kadarius Toney trade, pick 100. And if you also look at some of the moves that Joe Schoen is making in free agency, it sets up what's going to happen in the NFL draft. And let's think of the 2022 Giants. Yes, they went to the playoffs. Yes, they won a playoff game. But think about what plagued that 2022 team. The two critical vulnerabilities, one on each side of the football. On offense, it was the lack of this.
Opening drive, Giants. Second down, going deep. Daniel Jones. Did he catch it? Darius Slayton has a giant touchdown.
At least Darius Slayton is back. On defense, it was the inability to fit this.
184 passing, 191 rushing.
Another carry for Sanders, and this one breaks loose. He's headed for the end zone. Touchdown.
Check that. 232 rushing.
That's some quick math. And that's 144 today for Sanders.
Miles Sanders is in Carolina now, but it doesn't matter who is toting the rock behind that Philadelphia offensive line. It could be Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, Rocky Balboa, Joe Frazier. It really does not matter because they can run the football so effectively. So the Giants need to find ways to plug the run. And Joe Schoen did that in free agency, but he might not be done. So the two critical vulnerabilities: create explosive plays. You ranked dead last in explosive plays last year. You have to fix that and stop the run. The Giants ranked 27th in stopping the run last year. That's terrible. And I feel like Joe Schoen, so far in free agency, has set himself up to remedy those unfortunate situations that the 2022 Giants suffered through, but I don't think he's done quite yet.
They can't control you. They can't hold you. They damn sure can't stop you.
Credit Darren Waller for the music. Finding an explosive asset on the open market isn't an easy task, but Joe Schoen identified Waller as a target after discussions with Raiders general manager Dave Ziegler at the Reese's Senior Bowl. Although he's technically not a wide receiver, he slides in as the #1 option for the Giants' passing offense. Think back to before the bye week when the Giants were 6-2. Their offense was predicated on play-action efficiency. They were second in play-action rate on early downs, and Daniel Jones ranked 7th in EPA among quarterbacks off play-action. Waller's experience and ability over the middle of the field off play-action is one of the many reasons he can help this offense. He hasn't had a 1,000-yard season since 2020 when he went back-to-back years over 1,100 yards with a collective 12 touchdowns. However, in this offense, with Mike Kafka coordinating and Brian Dable overseeing the entire operation, I think 1,000 yards is attainable if Darren Waller can stay healthy. I'd also be remiss if I failed to mention that Daniel Bellinger is still a valuable asset to the Giants' offense, and 12 personnel is going to be quite fun to witness. Daniel Bellinger, he is that blocking type of tight end. He is somebody who is going to be valuable as a blocker, and when the Giants do decide to run a duo type of style, the Giants love to run a diverse rushing scheme, and Daniel Bellinger will certainly have a role. But Darren Waller offers a completely different upside than anything the Giants have had at tight end for quite a while. And now let's take a look at another player who has a lot of upside and could be a really explosive threat here with the New York Giants. Paris Campbell's extensive injury history forced the talented former Buckeye to sign a 1-year prove-it deal with the Giants. Campbell is a 25-year-old, 6-foot, 208-pound receiver who is an effective threat at all three levels of the field. He's had one healthy season in the NFL, which was last year, where he caught 63 of 85 balls for 623 yards and 3 touchdowns. Unfortunately for Campbell, he was playing in a tumultuous offense with unstable and geriatric quarterbacks. respectfully. The athletic traits he displayed while in college were still evident on tape despite the long injury history that plagued his first 3 years in the NFL. Giants wide receiver coach Mike Groh identified Campbell as a player with upside, and it's easy to see why. He just needs to stay healthy, and he can be the explosive threat out of the slot that can thrive in Kafka's offense. Here's another slot option that the New York Giants added, someone who's quite familiar with Daniel Jones. Jameson Crowder and quarterback Daniel Jones are both Duke alums at different times, but the two work out together and have a relationship. Crowder missed most of last season with a fractured ankle with the Bills, and hasn't had more than 500 yards receiving since his second year with the New York Jets in 2020. But as the Giants are aware, he was always a savvy receiver in Washington, where he started his career. However, he was brought into the Giants to compete for this role. This is no slight on Richie James, who handled his role admirably as a receiver last season after all of the injuries. But the punt returning issue cursed the Giants after star cornerback Adoree Jackson was injured handling those responsibilities. Crowder will compete for a roster spot and role on special teams, and will be a contingency in the slot as Sterling Shepard and Wan'Dale Robinson rehab their 2022 injuries. The Giants can still certainly add explosive playmakers in the draft who can help this offense reach new heights, give Daniel Jones options at the wide receiver position that he has not seen since he's become the New York Giants quarterback when they selected him at the 6th pick in the 2019 draft. I still think there are players in this draft that they can pursue. But now let's turn our attention to the defensive side of the football and how Joe Schoen has taken the necessary steps to shore up a run defense that was like Swiss cheese last year. And it all started with the first signing that the Giants made, Raheem Nunez-Roches, or also known as Nacho.
Yes, it's true. I am Nacho.
Don't worry why my wrist got so free. Sell a girl like Doritos, that's Nacho Cheese.
Other than his refreshing, gregarious personality, Nacho adds a qualified presence to the Giants' run defense as a significant upgrade over any defensive lineman New York had not named Dexter Lawrence or Leonard Williams from last season. Nacho is a Super Bowl champion who will likely start in base personnel for the Giants, while operating as a pivotal member of the Giants' defensive line rotation. For Nacho can align all across the line of scrimmage, and he'll really add a level of physicality that the Giants desperately missed last season. The Giants had a revolving door at linebacker last year. They went from Tay Crowder to Austin Calicio. Darian Beavers unfortunately got hurt. Micah McFadden, rookie out of Indiana last year, ended up getting benched. They signed Jarrad Davis and Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith mid-season ended up being their probably most sure thing at linebacker. And then Jarrad Davis, they signed off of the Lions practice squad. He ended up starting for the Giants in 2 playoff games, and they signed him like right after Christmas. Just a very, very rare type of situation. So we knew the Giants needed to find a solution at linebacker, and they did by adding former Indianapolis Colts linebacker Bobby Okereke.
I mean, obviously I knew how well the Giants were playing at that point in time of the year, and coming into the game, just the feel, the atmosphere in the stadium, I mean, now it's a blessing that I get to be a part of it. For this to come full circle and me to be a New York Giant in this moment, it's just really, really surreal, and I'm very grateful.
The Giants didn't just suck against the run last season, they were specifically abysmal against power gap concepts. The linebackers struggled to scrape, locate, and take on contact in an appropriate manner, which put extra stress on the edges to keep rushing lanes narrow, and the alley defenders flying downhill were often in disadvantageous situations. Okereke can scrape, locate, and dominate. The plays you're watching now are mostly power gap plays to the outside where Okereke leveraged his athletic traits, eyes, and understanding of angles to stop opposing rushing attacks. His 97th percentile arm length and wingspan not only is an asset shutting down throwing windows at the second level, but it elongates his tackle radius, which is one reason why Okereke never had a missed tackle rate over 11% through 4 seasons with the Colts. Okereke had over 100 tackles the last 2 seasons with over 50 stops in each, according to Pro Football Focus. He's a sure tackler, a leader, and the Giants' linebacker 1 moving forward. His best showing in 2022 was against the New York Giants in Week 17 in the Meadowlands, and us Giants fans, we're just hoping that he can consistently do that in the Giants building, for he had 17 tackles that day, was all over the field, had several tackles for losses, and threw an elbow into the head of Daniel Jones. But on a serious note, that is just water under the bridge. As long as Bobby Okereke can go into Wink Martindale's defense and help solidify the run defense of that unit, New York Giants fans are going to absolutely love this guy and appreciate everything that he brings to the table. The Giants also added Bobby McCain to this secondary, a valuable asset who can play in a variety of different roles, who I think slides in well with what Wink Martindale wants to do. I think it's a step down from Julian Love. It's not a sure thing that he's going to be starting opposite Xavier McKinney. He'll compete for that job. But regardless, he's going to play significant snaps in a defense that runs so much sub-packages like Wink Martindale's unit does.
It's coming, the throw, and it's intercepted! And that's going to be a Washington football team touchdown! Bobby McCain!
Bobby McCain started the last 2 seasons in Jack Del Rio's match-based defense that featured a lot of middle-of-the-field open quarters and 2 high looks with man coverage principles on 3rd down. McCain's primary role was an apex defender, slot, nickel, whatever you want to call him, that was tasked to use his broad vision to relate to receivers' routes once they were declared. McCain stated he intends to start opposite Xavier McKinney at safety with the Giants. He has the versatility to play significant snaps in Martindale's defense. However, he has adequate play strength and run support, but can deliver hit-stick highlights coming downhill versus unsuspecting receivers. His ability to close width is underrated, and he is a solid asset in man coverage. He has a lot of production in terms of his ball skills. He has 28 PBUs throughout his career with 11 interceptions. But remember 2021 where he had 4 interceptions. 2 of them came against Jake Fromm. 1 of them was returned for a pick 6. We heard that audio a little bit earlier, but I do believe this is a nice depth asset with some starting upside. Other than these players listed, Joe Schoen also retained a lot of talent from the 2022 season, and he added depth pieces like cornerbacks Amani Oruwariye, formerly of the Lions, and Leonard Johnson, while also bringing in special teams wide receiver Jeff Smith from the Jets, as well as effort blocker Tommy Sweeney, formerly of the Bills, knows Brian Dable's system. By adding Darren Waller and Paris Campbell, Joe Schoen has created an environment in which Daniel Jones can create some explosive plays, something that the Giants have failed to do over the last several seasons. And adding Rakeem Nunez-Roches and Bobby Okereke to this team, now the Giants don't need to go into the draft desperate for a linebacker and desperate for defensive line. I would contend and argue that the Giants still need defensive linemen, they still need linebackers, but they're not forced into that position. Those are good, valuable depth signing for Rakeem Nunez-Roches, somebody who will start in base personnel, but somebody who is going to be a very good run defender. Bobby Okereke, that's your starting linebacker right there. And I absolutely love that. I think he's a very solid addition, a very good player for the New York Giants who can thrive in Wink Martindale's system. And then adding even players like Bobby McCain and Amani Oruwariye to be depth pieces in the back end. Bobby McCain is going to play like over 600 snaps possibly for the New York Giants. He could be a starter at safety, assuming that Julian Love type of role. Amani Oruwariye, that is your hopefully 3rd boundary cornerback, outside type of player. I don't necessarily want him to start. If he earns the job over a player like Cordell Flott, then that's a big issue for the Giants, since New York spent a top 100 pick on Cordell Flott last season. But the Giants at least put themselves into a position where they have depth. They still need to add players to the cornerback spot, in my opinion, as well. But I like the steps that Joe Schoen has taken to at least make this roster a little bit more formidable as they head into the 2023 NFL Draft. But as I've said several times throughout this, they're not done yet. So let's see what Joe Schoen can do in this draft. Just a few weeks away. I cannot wait. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this. I am Nick Filato of Big Blue View. Please, if you have not done so already, like, comment, also subscribe to the channel. That would be excellent as well. Please head on over to bigblueview.com and check out all of our written content. We will be extensively covering the draft, and I cannot wait for that. Take care, everyone. Have a lovely day.